So when we have great compassion and the great resolve to work for the benefit of sentient beings, then there is no room for discouragement. So we have to completely ban discouragement from our mind altogether. I mean, there's just no room for it if you're going to work for sentient beings, because discouragement takes your mind in the opposite direction from working for sentient beings. And discouragement is also, I think it sometimes comes because we're not being realistic about this situation. We have to always remember that we're working with sentient beings who are under the influence of afflictions and karma. And so to expect quick change or easy change or people to instantly agree with us and do what we want, that's kind of unrealistic when you think about, sentient beings have just been operating under ignorance, anger, and attachment for eons, so expecting kind of quick change and so on is not so realistic. So we need to, have patience and fortitude together with our lack of discouragement so that we can keep going and keep working for sentient beings. Because as soon as we let even one moment of discouragement come in the mind, we're opening ourselves up for a lot of unhappiness. Okay, so it's better to keep a realistic approach. Change happens. It's going to happen. It's happening. It's impossible to keep it from happening. But it will happen slowly. And many different causes and conditions need to come together for the kind of change that we'd like to see to happen. But when we have that kind of realistic idea, then, we're willing to do what we can to be of benefit. We're satisfied with what we can do. And we know that as long as we keep going, things will definitely get better. So let's cultivate that optimistic attitude, energetic attitude, and incorporate it in our lives so it can truly be a benefit. It's true, isn't it? Huh? And if we're really going to benefit sentient beings, we cannot allow any discouragement to come in the mind. Because what happens, we all know from our own experience, what does one moment of discouragement do? Huh? Yeah. It just leads to another one, and another one, and another one, And so we find ourselves in that hole that we dug for ourselves. Yeah. And, so I think really, to be optimistic, but we can be optimistic without being idealistic. So we can be practical, and recognize, like us, are we going to change overnight and become Buddhists? Come on. slowly, slowly, one step at a time. So that's what's going to happen with other people. Sometimes, as they say, it's one step forward and two steps back, or it's two steps forward and one step back, or you dance around for a little while. But if we have a mind that kind of accepts, yes, this is samsara, and we're going in the right direction, and it'll take time, then we can keep going, and we're okay. But as soon as we let our mind go, oh, I work so hard, and they don't appreciate me. They're so ungrateful. Yeah, they expect me to be always there and to help them, but they never respond to the help I give. I'm working alone on this difficult thing, and nobody else joins me. They're all involved in their own projects. Yeah. So it's a modern version of the pity party, isn't it? Instead of feeling ourselves, this is pity party. So no room for that. Gotta get rid of it. Okay, here we go, approaching the Buddhist path. Can you believe it? We're on page 131. Look. How many months ago did we start this? Yeah, but you see, slowly, slowly, page by page. July of last year, so it hasn't even been a year. Okay. So did you review from last week? Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? This thing about blank-minded meditation and, how to understand different things, how to evaluate the teachings, how to investigate the teachings. Yeah, that's quite important. Yeah, in other words, not just kind of being blind and reading a little bit and, oh, it sounds so inspiring. Yeah, like Sangye Gajo and I were saying the other day, both of us thought, we met the Dharma, we're going to get enlightened. Really seriously, I was never coming back to this country. I was just going to stay in Nepal and India and get enlightened. Yeah. It sounded so easy. Yeah. Especially in this lifetime. Yeah. But then, as she said, as you practice, well, for her it was as you learn more, you see how much you don't know. For me, it was as I practiced more, I saw how much I didn't know. I was like, okay, it's going to take a while here. Yeah. But we keep going. So now we're on the part about treasure teachings and pure vision teachings. So this treasure teachings and pure vision teachings are not so common in all the traditions. They're mostly in the Nyingma, but they do appear in all four Tibetan traditions. And it's, I think, important to understand them, because otherwise we can get a little airy-fairy about them. Okay, so in Tibetan Buddhism, in addition to teachings spoken by the Buddha in sutras and by the great masters in their writings, there are, quote, quote, treasure teachings. They're called terma or terchu. Ter means treasure, and chu means dharma or teaching. Okay, so there are treasure teachings and other teachings that arise from pure visions. Okay, so how are these traced back to the Buddha? And what is the process for ascertaining their validity? Because we want to make sure that whatever we practice can be traced back to the Buddha as something that the Buddha taught or is in harmony with the Buddha taught. Okay. So termas are teachings discovered centuries after their composition, either concealed somewhere in the environment or revealed as visionary teachings. These were hidden as termas because they were not suitable for the practitioners at the time of the initial guru, but would benefit practitioners at the time of the tertan, the later practitioner who discovers them. When the terma is hidden, the guru who hides it often prophesizes where, when, and by whom it will later be discovered. Okay? So it's, somebody's alive, they have a teaching, they know that it just won't fit with what are the needs of the present people, but it will help people in future generations. So they hide it. Okay? And so there's two, and with the intention that it will be discovered later. So there's two main kinds of termas, earth treasures and mind treasures. So earth treasures are objects such as texts and ritual implements that are discovered in nature, in rocks, mountains, or trees, or in a temple or stupa. Earth termas are not ordinary books, but are often written in another script or language. So it's not like, you open a tree and instead of finding all the ants who have been living there, you find a book written in English, okay? Yeah, so it's not like that. But, they could be written in another script, another kind of language. Sometimes they contain symbols that trigger the tertan to recall a teaching, which he then writes down. So it's not even always in something written. Guru Sambhava, the most prolific creator of termas, or another guru, placed them in the mind stream of the tertan. Oh no, I'm sorry, I skipped. Mind treasures, are found in space. That is, they appear to the mind of the tertan. So space means here, within the space of somebody's mind. So Guru Padmasambhava, the most prolific creator of termas, or another guru, place them in the mind stream of the tertan, who experiences them in meditation and then writes the teachings down from memory. Okay, so the tertan has some kind of connection with Guru Rinpoche, that's Guru Padmasambhava, who places the tertan in their mind. Then when they're meditating, this terma comes to them, and then they write it down. Okay? Sometimes the tertan himself holds the teaching in his mind stream and reveals it in a future life. Okay, so they, don't always reveal it in that particular life, sometimes in another one. So these are special kind of teachings. The greatest majority of teachings that we follow are sutras, and tantras, the ones that the Buddha spoke during his lifetime and that were passed down. So these are just special teachings that occur once in a while. Don't start thinking that they're the majority of what we practice. That's not it. A treasure teaching enhances the teachings the Buddha already gave. In context and purpose, it is in line with the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha contained in the sutras and tantras. In this way, it is traceable to the Buddha. Okay, so it corresponds to what the Buddha generally teaches. It may, describe it in a different way. It may add a few other steps to something, but it's very much in line with what the Buddha teaches already. In the Tibetan Buddhist community, some treasure discoveries are considered false and others authentic, indicating that some claims may be forged or simply erroneous. Okay, so just because somebody says, oh, I'm a Terton and I found a terma, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case. But there is not an appointed committee or a person who is responsible for checking the accuracy of termas. So it's not like the Terton has one and then turns it into the office of terma, what do you call it? Authentication, and after somebody checks it, then they put a stamp on it and give you a license to propagate that terma. No, it's not like that, okay? Rather, a prominent and authoritative master that is well known in the Tibetan community usually comments on a terma. He and others take into consideration 3 factors. 1, whether the Terton and or the terma were prophesied by the Buddha or another lineage master. Okay, so that helps eliminate things where people, kind of pop up and, oh, I got a terma, but, that's not the case at all. So it's something that's prophesied, chiefly by Padmasambhava. They also examine how this treasure teaching compares with those well-known, authentic treasure teachings discovered in the past. So they compare it with what is already known, see if it complies. And 3, they check the characteristics of the person who claims to be the treasure discoverer. So if that person's taking the Tibetans talk about taking dadura. That means some kind of intoxicant or hallucinant. Oh, you've been taking dadura, have you? Hallucinogenic or something. So it eliminates somebody who's just kind of doing that. In most cases, an authentic treasure discoverer conceals a new treasure teaching for some years while he or she practices it to determine whether it is reliable. So it's not that, somebody has this teaching appear in their mind, or they find something in the environment and they go down, to the New Delhi Times and say, or the Lhasa Times, and say, I've discovered this. This is fantastic. Everybody should practice it. And I am the Terton. No, they're very quiet. They're discreet. They go and practice it for some years, to see what the result of practicing this teaching is. If it brings some good result, or maybe it doesn't. Okay. So often that person's teacher also practices and evaluates the teaching. Okay, so the Terton and that Terton's teacher practice it. Sometimes an explicit statement in the terma says that the Terton will encounter a specific, reliable student to whom he should first give this teaching. So there's some kind of prophecy in the terma. This student is called the owner of the teaching, and the discoverer may wait to see if this student appears. As I understand it, when Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche experienced something akin to intuition in which a teaching appeared in his mind, he explained this to his teacher, Khyentse Chukyi Lodro. So both of these are very great, well-respected, accomplished masters. They aren't, Joe Blow down by the chai shop, Then both of them would practice this teaching, and if they both gained some deeper experience, then they considered it authentic. There are other teachings that derive from a pure vision appearing in the mind of a realized master in deep meditation. Unlike termas, they are not transmitted by mind from Padmasambhava or some other teacher. Okay? Rather, the pure vision of the deity appears directly to the practitioner. It's a pure vision teaching. Here, the deity who appears is in fact a Buddha. As with termas, the teachings given in a pure vision should accord with original teachings traceable to the Buddha. If the deity in the vision taught that an inherently existent soul existed, that clearly would not be an authentic pure vision teaching. Okay, so you always check to see if these correspond with what the Buddha usually teaches. Yeah. The fifth Dalai Lama had visions of several deities, and thus certain initiation lineages trace back to him. He practiced the teachings from his pure visions and had good results. Later masters also did this with similar results. The fifth Dalai Lama was a good monk, an excellent scholar, and an outstanding practitioner. He had no reason to lie. So His Holiness, often takes the empowerments from the pure vision tradition of the fifth Dalai Lama, and he practices them, and then he will give the initiations from the fifth Dalai Lama's pure visions. Okay, and also the Chidamani Tara that some of us have. That was a pure vision teaching from a few generations ago. I can't remember who it appeared to, but yeah, its origin was a pure vision teaching. Then His Holiness says, I received some of the initiations coming from the pure vision of the fifth Dalai Lama from my teacher Tadrak Rinpoche when I was around 10 or 11 years old. At that time, I wasn't very interested in them, although I did have some auspicious dreams during that time. Now, when I do retreat on the fifth Dalai Lama's pure visions here in Dharamsala, some indications of success appear during each retreat. They may not be obvious signs, but still they come. So these, plus my experience in practicing these teachings, leads me to believe they are authentic. The second Dalai Lama also had many pure visions, as did the first Dalai Lama, although he kept them concealed. Yeah, so this is something that's quite delicate, because you always have people who want to put themselves up and, oh, Tara appeared to me and I have a pure vision, and the offerings can go here. So, it's dealt with discreetly and, with really well-respected teachers practicing these and evaluating them. Okay, so don't go around thinking like, I had a dream. Maybe that was a pure vision. Yeah, I saw a dog in the dream and a cat together. And, that's a deity, a dog and a cat in union. Instead of fighting, So no, chill out, okay? Okay. So a lot of this chapter in particular, I didn't write this in the book, but this chapter came from questions that I asked during the interviews, because other people had asked, people wanted to know about this, and I did too, How do you validate Dharma teachings? And what about pure vision teachings? And then we're coming up to a thing about Guru Yoga. And I asked that too, because I always wondered, we do all these Guru Yoga practices, but they're about historical figures that lived centuries after the Buddha. So how come, they always say, trace something back to the Buddha, but these people lived afterwards. How do you do that? So I asked His Holiness. So each Tibetan Buddhist tradition has Guru Yoga meditations centered on prominent lineage holders or founders of that lineage. For Nyingma, it is Padmasambhava. For Kagyu, Milarepa. For Gelu, Tsongkhapa. And for Sakya, the 5 founders of the Sakya order. So they are Sachen Kunga Ningpo, Sonam Semo, Jetsun Drokpa Gyaltsen, Sakya Pandita, and Chogyal Pakpa. Okay? We may wonder, since these masters were later historical figures, the Guru Yoga practices centered on them were written long after the Buddha lived. How do we know that these practices are valid? Good question, isn't it? Yeah? Upon examination, we see that these Guru Yoga sadhanas, or ritual texts, contain the important elements of any tantric practice: taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, the 7 limb prayer, requesting inspiration, dissolution of the guru into the meditator, meditation on emptiness, and so on. So although the central figures vary, instead of being a deity, it is now a lineage lama, the practice is still authentic because it follows the basic meditation procedures for this type of practice. Okay? So, yeah, the whole sadhana is very much in line with all the other kind of sadhanas that came. It's not something wild. Yeah.
So my understanding, not having a highest class tantra empowerment, is that in Guru Yoga, the mind of the lineage master or previous, the lineage master will join with the mind of the person who's practicing this practice?
Okay. It's a meditation, okay? And so you imagine in Guru Yoga, that your teacher is seated on the crown of your head. And then you take refuge, you generate bodhicitta, you do the 7 limb prayer, and so on. And then you imagine that your teacher then sinks into you and merges with your heart. So it isn't that, the mind of your guru is now inside you and you're channeling your guru. No. When you think, what is the mind of the guru? It's bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. So when you imagine the guru coming into you and, blending into your heart, then you think, I've received, you imagine having those realizations yourself. So you imagine that your mind has become indifferentiable from the mind of the deity, from the mind of the guru. Okay, but this is how you meditate. It's not that the guru is kind of above your head. Oh, hello there, Kunga. I'm going to come and dissolve into your mind soon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it's a way. The Guru Yoga practice is a way. How to say, because, you heard when Sankakadra and I were talking the other day, how much both of us were inspired by our teachers and wanted to become like them. But you can't always live near your teacher. Sometimes you live, half the world away. And so you want to keep that feeling of connection, and inspiration with you. And so the Guru Yoga practice enables you to do that, because you imagine, your teacher sitting on the crown of your head, and you can, like I said, you can have little conversations with your teacher when you're upset, and like, my mind's going crazy. What do I practice now? In your meditation, and then you imagine that. That your guru is telling what you need to practice. And if you've heard a lot of teachings, then you kind of know it comes to you automatically. Okay? And so then also too, when you imagine the guru dissolving and sinking into you, then you imagine that your mind and the Buddhist mind, the guru's mind, become the same. And again, it builds this feeling of connection. But you don't think it's the personality of the guru. Okay? So it's not, if you have a teacher who's real serious, that this seriousness is in your mind, or a teacher that jokes that all of a sudden you're giggling in your meditation. No, when you think about, hear what you're thinking about when they say the guru, it's not the physical guru. They're talking about the enlightened mind. Okay, so you imagine that you're, being exposed to that enlightened mind. Yeah, so it's very helpful to practice this, because then you always feel the encouragement and inspiration of your teacher, which I think is very important for being able to practice consistently in all sorts of different situations. Okay, now we're on the section that's called Exaggerated Statements. So this one also I ask my questions from, and the questions that other people get given me to ask. Okay, so sometimes we encounter statements in the sutras or commentaries that appear exaggerated, and we doubt whether we should take them literally. Using the criteria mentioned above, as well as our common sense, okay, we can evaluate whether they are accurate if understood literally. Okay, because you know how literal we are. I mean, we are so literal. We are not at all nuanced. Yeah, we are just literal and kind of dull in that way. Can't pick up on nuances. And so you see this, sometimes this is part of the cultural thing that happens between Tibetan lamas and Western students, is a Tibetan lama will say something, and the Western students take it totally 100% literally. Like I told you the story of the monk who was scattering flower seeds all over the Dharma center because Lama said, I want flowers everywhere. Yeah, so he took it literally, and he wanted to buy thousands of dollars worth of, flower seeds and throw them everywhere. Okay, so this is the way we are, we're literal, and we want to do it perfect. Nothing less than our version of perfect will do. Yeah, because we've got to be the outstanding, perfect student. Okay, and so we take everything very literally. Either that, or we just shine it on and don't pay attention at all. Our teacher says, it's good to do this practice every day. In one ear, out the other. Okay, because I've recommended here that everybody do a white tar practice daily. I don't know how many of you are doing it or not. Yeah? Oh, good. Actually, really, some people are listening. Oh. So, yeah, you didn't raise your hand.
I didn't know.
Oh, now you know. Okay. Okay. For example, statements in some scriptures say that by reciting a particular mantra once, we will never be born in an unfortunate realm, or one will attain awakening easily. Have you heard those things? You say the long Chenrezig mantra, whatever is, you will never be born in the hell realm. Yeah, you say Namo Amitofo 10 times, you go directly to Sukhavati without passing go or collecting $200. We hear this, or that there's all sorts of things that we hear like that. Okay, so if such statements were literally true, there would have been no need for the Buddha to teach us to avoid destructive actions and create constructive ones. If all it took for us to attain realizations or go to the Pure Land or get a precious human life was to say a mantra a few times, then, why would the Buddha have taught for 45 years? Why would we have You go in the meditation hall, you see all the conquered teachings that the Buddha gave, all the Tengyur teachings that the great sages gave. If all you needed to do was recite a mantra a few times, why did they teach all the rest of it? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Okay, so His Holiness says, if we could be born in a pure land by reciting a few mantras, why would the Buddha spend so much time teaching the importance of counteracting ignorance and affliction by applying the antidotes to them? Yeah. Why would the Buddha have taught selflessness? Yeah. Why would he have taught bodhicitta? Why would he have taught the defects of samsara if all you needed was to recite a mantra a few times? Yeah. If we could gain realization simply by reciting mantras, the Buddha would not have taught the 3 higher trainings and the cultivation of method and wisdom. Everything that is so foundational in our practice, he wouldn't have bothered to teach. We can see that such statements are not consistent with the Buddha's teachings in other scriptures. Therefore, we cannot take these statements literally, the ones about reciting a mantra a few times. Reciting mantras must be conjoined with other virtuous practices to bring the desired results. Okay, so it's not just reciting the mantras. Yeah, otherwise tape recorders would have been enlightened a long time ago. Especially in Singapore, where they leave the little thing going all day and all night saying Namo Amitofu. It would have been enlightened. Yeah. So why does the scripture say this? That all you need is a few recitations. In part, the benefits of reciting a mantra were extolled to inspire certain people who are embarking on the practice. Yeah, so it was to get people interested in doing that practice, And if they think, I just need to do a few mantra, I get all these results, it's very good, then they'll do the practice. If you tell them, you need to collect method and wisdom for 3 countless great eons, they're going to say, forget it. Yeah? So you say, you recite these mantras a few times, and they leave out the fine print. Yeah. It isn't. Yes, you recite these mantras a few times with the direct realization of emptiness, united with the clear vision of the deity in deity yoga that is held by actual bodhicitta and renunciation and done with perfect concentration. They leave out the small print. But yeah, if you say the mantra with that kind of support, okay, you're going to get enlightened soon. But it's not because of the mantra, it's because of everything else you do. Okay? But, the Buddha said these kind of things because keep people get interested. Yeah. It's the same thing, like, how, we read so many ads and, yeah, actually, the dental hygienist was saying to me yesterday, when she gave me my complimentary little tube of toothpaste, and she was saying, every toothpaste thing is, they have this special formula that whitens your teeth and prevents plaque and, cavities and, all this stuff on the cover, that how wonderful this toothpaste is. And she said, if you read their ingredients, they all have the same ingredients. All the toothpaste are about the same. It doesn't really matter which one you used. Yeah? I had asked another hygienist, a few times ago when I went, she had said the same thing. I said, which toothpaste should I use for my sensitive gut? It doesn't matter, they're all the same. Yeah, but if you read the things, this one's special.
If you don't have a connection with a deity or any of the lineage gurus, can you imagine your own teacher or whatever teacher you follow as dissolving into you, such as venerable children? The person is asking.
You don't want to do things.
You don't want me dissolving into you. No, when you do the Guru Yoga, okay, you usually visualize that lineage master. You can also visualize one of the deities. But the thing is, you think that the mind of the deity and your teacher's mind are the same. They have the same realizations. Okay? So again, it's not the personality of your teacher. Yeah, so you may visualize, let's say, Tara, and here you're doing deity yoga. Yeah, but you think Tara's mind and your teacher's mind are the same. Yeah, and then you contemplate the qualities and then, think that the deity melts into you and merges with your own mind. So it's always done on the imagination level. Yeah. In addition, the results of reciting a mantra differ according to the person doing it and how it is done. Okay, so as with everything, it's not just one cause, it's multiple causes and multiple conditions. A constructive action done by a person adhering to Buddhist precepts is far more powerful than the same action done by one not living within the precepts. So for those of you who have not taken the 5 precepts, people listening online, this is a really big advantage of taking the 5 precepts or taking monastic ordination or whatever, because the more precepts you hold, then the more virtuous your mind is, because you're abstaining deliberately from these negative actions. And therefore, all the other virtuous actions that you do become more powerful. Yeah, you accumulate more merit. The potency of mantra recitation done by a person contemplating the emptiness of the mantra, reciting it with bodhicitta motivation, or visualizing sending out emanations to benefit sentient beings. So if you do it with any of those factors, is much more powerful than the same recitation done by someone whose mind is distracted, as our minds also often are when we do our practice. The power of the mantra does not operate independent of these other conditions. On the flip side of these benefits, some scriptures say, for example, that we will be reborn in the hell realm for the same number of eons as the number of moments we are angry with our spiritual master. The scriptures say that one moment of anger destroys the merit of generosity and other practices accumulated over one eon. Or you also have scriptures that say that anger towards a bodhisattva leads to experiencing unfortunate rebirths and great suffering for eons. Okay, so you've probably all heard this, in different teachings. Some people may think that the Buddha made such statements to instill fear in us so that we will behave ethically. This is a comment I often hear from Westerners, because they think that that's also what's happening in Christianity or whatever religion that they grew up in, that they were told that all these things were sins and that they were sinners, and the idea was to scare you so that you behaved. Yeah, so many people, think that, and that's one reason that they reject religion, okay? But in the case of Buddhism, this is not the case. Yeah, the Buddha had no reason to threaten us with punishment. And this is important. The law of karma and its effects is not a system of punishment and reward. Rather, with compassion, the Buddha was reminding us that a small action can bring a large result, just as in the physical world, a tiny seed can grow into a huge tree. Such seemingly exaggerated statements aren't only about the bad effects of small unwholesome actions. They are also found on the positive side. Great beneficial results may come about by doing small constructive actions. So I remember quite clearly when His Holiness was talking about this, and he said it can't just be on the negative side. You know, if it says that on the negative side, then it's got to be the same kind of thing happen on the positive. Okay. For example, it is said that if a person shoots a sinister look to a bodhisattva, the karmic impact is like gouging out the eyes of all sentient beings. Okay. You might wonder, well, why? You know, I give a bodhisattva a dirty look. Why is it comparable karmically to gouging out the eyes of all sentient beings? When you think, you know, if you think of a bodhisattva as just Joe Blow, you know, then this statement doesn't make any sense. But if you think of a bodhisattva as somebody whose every action is motivated by the intention to lead sentient beings to awakening, then you can see that by, you know, giving them a dirty look or interfering with their actions, that you're actually interfering with the cause of happiness for many, many infinite sentient beings. Okay, so that's why the bodhisattva is such a powerful object with which we create karma. So we can create massive negative karma and massive positive karma. Okay, so it says that about gouging out the eyes. However, it is also said that if we pay respect to or venerate a bodhisattva for even one moment, we accumulate merit as vast as the universe. Okay, so it's that way on the negative side, that way on the positive side. Small actions can bring big results. One text says that even if an enraged person glances at the image of the Buddha, he accumulates merit by the power of having contact with an image representing awakening. Okay, so even, you know, they glare at the Buddha, just by the fact of having that contact with this image that is representing awakening, it puts, you know, so many good seeds in their mind stream. Yeah. So this is also why we have our kitties here. Yeah, they're being very quiet last night and tonight. Yeah. So, you know, she's here though, isn't she? Somewhere. Yeah, don't look too hard. But you know, so even if, you know, the cats don't know anything about the Dharma, but they hear the teachings, they see the image of the Buddha, you know, whatever it is. So it puts this good kind of imprint in their mind. Yeah? The Tibetans have a story about, you know, at one of the large monasteries when they do debate, the different classes would all line up in a row, and, you know, you have the challenger and the defender. And so there was a scorpion or a spider? Yeah. Anyway, there was a monk who, in his debating, did incredibly well until he got to one class. And then he stopped being able to learn so easily. So they were wondering, why is this? You know, he was so bright initially, and now he has these obstacles. So one other monk who could, you know, had some kind of powers, he said, well, in his previous life, he was a spider or a scorpion or something like that. And he was at the debate courtyard, and he started out with the lowest class, And he was just walking up as they were debating. So he heard all the debates, all the replies, everything that was going on. But when he got to a certain class, some monk noticed him and took him out and somewhere away. So after that class, he didn't get the oral transmission in his mind. And that's why he couldn't do those other classes so well. Okay, so they use that as an example of the power of the object, and why it's good to say our mantras out loud so that the animals hear them, and so on. Okay, so maybe so our friends hear them too. Yeah, so one text says that even if an enraged person glances at the image of the Buddha, he accumulates merit by the power of having contact with an image representing awakening. As a result of this, he will be able to see 10 million Buddhas in the future. But remember, glancing at a Buddha statue alone will not yield the result of seeing 10 million Buddhas. We also need to purify our mind, create merit, generate bodhicitta, and understand emptiness. Okay, so it's not just one cause. In statements about the effects of our interactions with Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and their images, the heaviness of the karma is principally due to what is called the power of the object. That is, Buddhas and bodhisattvas are remarkable beings who have accumulated merit for countless eons and have continually engaged in benefiting sentient beings. Venerating such beings, making offerings to them, and assisting them in their various works creates powerful karma because, being weighty in nature, holy beings are powerful objects. Similarly, interfering with their good deeds or scorning them leaves heavy harmful latencies in our mind. Okay, so that's why they say to be very careful with, objects that are strong objects of creating karma. So holy objects, our spiritual mentor, the 3 jewels, our parents, because of the kindness that they've shown us, people who are impoverished or sick because of their suffering. Okay, so to take special care and, try not to create negative karma with those people, but try to do even small virtuous actions. Whether our actions regarding holy objects have the potency to bring strong or weak effects also depends on the context of the action. Let's say a person who is not a bodhisattva gets angry at a bodhisattva for whom she usually holds great admiration. Her anger is not rage, rather she lost her temper over a small thing. If she immediately regains mindfulness and regrets her anger, I don't think she will experience suffering for countless eons. Even though they say that, you spend, for each moment of anger towards your spiritual mentor, you spend an eon in the hell realm. So he's giving the context here that, this disciple usually has great respect for their teacher. Her anger isn't full-blown rage. She lost her temper for, a while. She instantly, immediately saw what she was doing and stopped the anger and regretted it. Okay, and so you can see with those kind of conditions, that's going to be much different than somebody who usually has no regards for Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, who just got totally enraged, blurted out, who knows what they said, rejoiced in what they said, never regretted it. So you can see there's going to be a difference in the heaviness of the karma these people create. Okay, so it's similar on the positive side, even, we all often do things so that our family, who is not Buddhist, can at least make some, connection with the Buddha, So maybe our family gives us something, we give that to the 3 jewels, or we ask our family to give an offering to the monastery on our behalf, or we do things to help them make some kind of connection. Yeah, so they make some connection that way. They create some merit. But you can also see there's going to be a difference between that merit and somebody who has faith in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and who wholeheartedly and enthusiastically engages in offering service. Okay, however, another person has no regard for bodhisattvas in general and is antagonistic towards one in particular. If he gets very angry towards that bodhisattva, the harsh consequences mentioned above may apply. Okay, but you see, when they write that, for example, the text we were studying, Chandrakirti Supplement, there's a whole bit about this in the chapter on Fortitude. But when they write that, they don't necessarily give you all the fine print explaining this. Okay. So results arise in dependence upon a multiplicity of causes and conditions. So scriptural statements must be understood in that light. The intensity of our intention, whether getting angry or generating compassion, makes a big difference in the strength of the result. Also, if a person performs an action repetitively, be it constructive or destructive, the result will be heavier. Okay, so anything we do, you get up every morning, you make 3 prostrations, even though you're still half asleep, but you do it every single morning because you really have some faith in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Then by the force of doing that repetitively, it becomes quite strong. Another factor affecting the heaviness is whether a counterforce is present. If we purify destructive actions, their effects will be lighter, whereas generating anger or wrong views hinders the ripening of our constructive karma. So the strength of the regret and the strength of the wrong views will also affect the heaviness of the karma. Okay, so if you do something virtuous and then you go, oh, why did I do that? I gave this donation and now I don't have the money and I could really used it to go on vacation or buy myself a new this and that. And then you generate regret for making the offering, then you're destroying your merit. Yeah. On the other hand, we're rude to somebody and immediately we think, I really don't want to talk like that to people and have regret. Then that drastically lessens the impact of the action, the strength of the karma. In short, many factors are involved in the weight of a karma. In Blaze of Reasoning by Bhava Viveka and in the great treatise on the stages of the path by Tsongkhapa, it is said that the intricacies of karma are very profound. How specific actions bring their specific results is a very obscure phenomenon that only omniscient Buddhas know with complete accuracy. Nevertheless, we can still evaluate scriptural statements regarding cause and result based on our limited knowledge by comparing quotations on a similar topic to see if they're consistent. Yeah, so comparing what you read here with what you hear there and using your wisdom to see if the statements are consistent or not. In the case of the efficacy of reciting a mantra once, other scriptures present a divergent view and stress the necessity of purifying destructive karma and practicing both wisdom and method for eons. Okay, so you can see that comment about reciting the mantra, it doesn't fit in with the rest of what the Buddha usually teaches. Yeah, so don't take that one literally. But in the example of a small instance of anger bringing a large result, we find complementary statements that small constructive actions may ripen in significant results. In this case, the claims are consistent with each other. So then we should, understand those claims as they are pronounced. If we do not feel comfortable believing some of the scriptural statements about karma and its results, we can leave them aside. Okay, this is what His Holiness is saying now is very practical and very kind and compassionate, because some people in the West, they start to study about karma, they get so angry and so upset and so confused, and that attitude doesn't help them at all. So His Holiness says, if you don't feel comfortable believing in some of the scriptural statements about karma and its results, we can leave them aside. No one is forcing us to believe what the Buddha said or to become a Buddhist. You have freedom. In matters of religion, a great diversity of beliefs is natural. While everyone, animals and human beings alike, agrees that drinking water is necessary, we disagree on what food is delicious. Similarly, although the search for meaning in life is shared, we may differ regarding religious beliefs. There is a room for a variety of views. Okay. And then the reflection. Are there scriptural statements that you feel uncomfortable with or doubtful towards? If so, what are they? So, His Holiness is asking you.
It's saying a mantra and putting saliva on my feet makes a bug I step on be reborn in the God realm of the 33. However, when I stepped on that mouse, I was really glad that I did that practice. But I still have doubt.
Yeah. So it's something that you have doubt towards. But when there was that accident and you had a mouse in your shoe, you were glad that you had done that morning. Yep.
I have some doubt about where it says that most of the karma that ripens is from actions created in past life. Mm-hmm. When, in my experience in this life, I see actions done and then it seems like results quite quickly. Mm-hmm. And so I doubt when it says it comes from past life, or I wonder what's the reasoning there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to respond to that? Well, they say that if an action is a very heavy karma, it can ripen in this lifetime. So maybe the ones that you're seeing ripening are very heavy karmas. Otherwise, they say they're, probably previous lives. But it could be that the actions, the karma that's ripening is from a past life, but the action that stimulated it to ripen is happening in this life.
The idea of merit multiplying days, I've always found quite odd. I think of it as a skillful means, I guess. And in the past, I used to have doubt about the Pure Land practice because I didn't have teachings on them. And it seems so, like going to this other place, it seems so contrary to the teachings of working on your mind now. But now that you've taught on them and how you understand them at 2 levels, that really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Understanding that you need to teach in different ways for different people at different levels.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true, especially when it comes to the Pure Land practice. The thing about merit multiplying days, I have the same thing with. And I asked one of my teachers, because on the Chinese calendar, for example, Vesak is the full moon in this month. In the Tibetan calendar, it's the full moon next month. Yeah. So does that mean that you only get, however many, I forget the magic number. What? Yeah, however many, multiplication of the merit. does that mean you only get it on one of those days and not the other? And so one of the traditions is wrong, or, what's going on? And especially then you have different Buddhist schools even celebrating, because, our tradition says birth, enlightenment, and passing away are the same day. Other schools say the Buddha was born in December. His birthday was in December. Others say it was on the 8th of the fourth month, not the 15th. So do those people not get the, multiplied merit, or do we not get it? I asked one of my teachers, if it has to be exactly on that day, and he said yes. But it didn't satisfy me. So I see it very much as skillful means to get people to create merit. And they do. When you're told it's going to multiply, then you get more enthusiastic about it. Yeah. It's like eating low-fat ice cream. You can eat more of it.
This has only started bothering me, I think, in about the last 8 months. And so before it wasn't a problem. But now I'm thinking about, people are always writing in, asking us to make prayers for their loved ones. And then we read out these names at the end of the practice. And then, so my mind is trying to figure out, okay, so are we all paying attention to these names carefully? Have we all really dedicated the merit for this to happen? We're struggling to pronounce the names correctly. Some people are just probably thinking, when is the list going to be finished? And so, as a group, I'm just wondering how it works.
Okay, so in terms of making prayers for people, a dedication.
And there's so many things going on at the end of the session.
Yeah, I think the main thing is my personal view. You're not going to find this in the scripture, and other people probably have different opinions. But I think the main thing is your intention, that you're wishing these people well. And whether you pronounce the name correctly or not, personally speaking, I don't think that matters so much. I think what matters is, again, the force of the intention, and whether we're paying attention, when things are being read out. I don't think that means that we have to, you sit there and you listen to every single name and you pray for every single person, like that. Okay? Because then your dedication is going to be longer than your actual practice. Yeah? But, you read the names, you cultivate a good intention towards all these people, and, dedicate the merit towards them. But the thing that's really going to benefit them is the good karma they created while they were alive. And when they're dead, we can't do anything about that. Yeah. But also, I remember one time going to Genlam Rinpa. My grandma had just died, and asking him to make prayers for her. And he said, you're the one with the karmic connection to her. It's more important that you make the prayers. Yeah. So I see this whole thing of making dedication and prayers as something, it's very comforting and healing to the living. I'm sure it benefits the deceased people or the sick people or whatever to some extent, because I think the mind is quite powerful. And if somebody's created the karma that can then ripen when the cooperative conditions of other people's prayers are watering it, then that can be helpful. But I think also it really helps the people who are living, because often when somebody dies or somebody's sick, they have so many different emotions come up. They feel guilt, they feel sad, they feel angry, they feel confused. And to be able to take refuge in the three gems, the three jewels, and make prayers themselves or ask the Sangha to make prayers, I think that brings a lot of solace and peace to the relatives. And I think the relatives create a lot of good karma. Yeah. So I think often, when somebody dies, our teachers will tell us, do this practice or that practice. I think that to some extent benefits the person who's sick or dies. But I think it's a clever way of our teachers to get us to do some practice with some sincerity and some strong intention. Because when it's for a specific individual that we know, we do the practice better, don't we? Rather than when it's just, okay, 7 o'clock, I do my commitments. Then it's like, okay, how fast can I get this done? Yeah, so it's one of those things that depends on so many different factors. Yeah.
Every morning during the recitation of the praises to Tara, we say, destroys demons, zombies, and yakshas. And I have a reaction when I hear the word zombies. I mean, I can deal with demons.
You can handle the demons and the yakshas, but not the zombies. Okay, well, you have to cultivate some compassion for the zombies too, Because this is, remember that all these other beings were our dear mother at one time or another. Yeah?
I don't even know where the resistance is coming from. I'm not sure if it's, I don't know, it's a compassion thing, but it's actually just like believing in zombies, period.
Believing that they exist. Also, the whole praise of Tara, it's also symbolic for dealing with the winds and drops and everything in the subtle body. So it may not be external zombies so much. Yeah.
That's even worse, the internal.
No, there's not some little zombie bouncing around in your body. No.
They're doing the blessing of the speech. Sometimes reciting just the syllables and the sounds can be challenging for me to link into the power. Making strong aspiration of how I want to use my speech throughout the day, but just reciting syllables.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think it has to do with your intention. That's the most powerful thing. Yeah, because anyway, we're not speaking Sanskrit, are we? So, Om, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Yeah, that's maybe what we should do. Or to do the vowels. Om, A, E, I, O, U, so, ha. Yeah, sometimes Y. So, that's why. So, yeah.
There's a beautiful story, I think, in the sutra, the Play Sutra, if I'm not mistaken, that's the name, and it describes the Buddha being taken to school, and when the teacher was reciting these phrases, then the Buddha, as a young boy, was accomplishing incredible things with each of the syllables. And I'll pull it out and share with people, because that's what I think of in that. I find that very inspiring. That reminds me of the qualities of the Buddha.
Buddha, yeah.
Someone online said all the hell realms.
Okay. What about the heavenly realms? Do you believe in them? Yeah. Because I think, again, if it's on one direction, we should be on the other direction too. Yeah. About the hell realms, if you just The way that has helped me is to start thinking about the animal realms and how we will sometimes say about a human being, that person acts worse than an animal. Yeah. So if that person acts worse than an animal, they're being born as an animal. You know, doesn't seem like something far out, you know. And so similarly, if a person has a very angry, vengeful mind, you know, and always wants to harm others, then they're being in an environment that is a reflection of that state of mind. You know, to me, that makes sense. In the same way that if somebody has a very virtuous mind, them being born in an environment where things appear very purely as a reflection of their mind, that makes sense. That's one way to try and see it. But it's interesting, you know, all the different things that people have doubts about. No one has said, I doubt whether affliction, anger and attachment are afflictions. Nobody's said, I doubt whether self-centered mind is a problem on the path. No one has said, I doubt selflessness. No one has said, I doubt the sufferings of samsara. All the doubts have to do with things that we can't see and experience here and now in this life. You know, just in listening to people's doubts, it's mostly that, isn't it? Yeah. It's not with the basic Buddhist teachings and foundational principles of the Dharma.
It makes me think of the story where somebody asked the Buddha about the nature of how things were, the universe was created or something. He asked some question, and the Buddha told the parable of the poison arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, basically the answer was, concern yourself with the things that matter because your time is short.
Yep. Yeah, and don't get hung up on things that are not important, and use those to create, you know, so many doubts that you don't spend your time wisely really working on your mind. Let me just read the next two questions. We can take those home. Are there other scriptures that either reinforce, contradict, or give another interpretation of the meaning of that statement, whatever it was that you had doubt about? And how does that change your thought? And then third, was religion used as a tool of coercion or intimidation when you were a child? If so, could that experience now affect your perspective on Buddhist scriptures? Yeah, because lots of times what we grew up with, you know, we just, it didn't sit well with us, but when we come to Buddhism, if there's something that sounds even remotely similar to that, then we have that same averse reaction, even though what Buddhism is saying about that is completely different. You know, like the idea of the hell realms. You know, in theistic religions, there are punishments. Yeah, somebody punishes you. You're there forever. There's no respite from the suffering. In Buddhism, it's not a punishment. Yeah, and it's only a temporary state. Yeah. So, but some people, you know, like you hear the Christian version of hell realms, and that made you really uncomfortable. Then when you hear the Buddhist version, you think, oh, that's exactly like the Christian version, and reject that too. But it's not exactly like the Christian version.
I was wondering if J. Rinpoche's guidance directly from Manjushri, and kind of the revelation of how he came to the points that he came to, if that would be considered pure vision teaching.
Yeah. You know, if you have a direct line to Manjushri, I'd say it's pure vision. Yeah.
I remember another aspect of the teachings I struggled with. The teachings on the 8 Guru Dharmas.
Oh, yeah.
Mainly because I understand Chinese, because we don't teach it here. So the first time I heard it in Chinese at the foreordination, I was like, I had a very strong internal reaction of a lot of anger and frustration that I had to like calm down. It was helpful to go back this time and not have the same reaction and be like, okay, I can buy off on the whole mutual respect argument, but there are just some things I cannot agree with, and that's fine. I respect that, I can hear the teaching and see the reasoning coming from the Vinaya master and not get angry.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see it also much more as a cultural thing too. Yeah. In Indian culture, I mean, women were kept in the homes and they were the properties of their male guardians and so on. So
Nagarjuna going to the land of the Nagas and getting the teachings, that is the classic example of the treasure. Is that what we call the treasure? Treasure teaching?
Teachings? Maybe you could consider that a treasure teaching. I don't know. Yeah, they just said he went there and found the text, right there. But I don't know.
It says here, termas are teachings discovered centuries after
Yeah.
their composition, either concealed somewhere in the environment or revealed.
It seems to fit that definition. I've never heard them called treasure teachings.
It just seems to put that to put treasure teachings older than when Buddhism went to Tibet. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
Tibet is where you mostly hear about it.
Yeah. You don't hear about treasure teachings in the other Buddhist traditions. So I don't know. And that whole story, I don't know if we need to take that literally or not. Yeah, this will be the last question.
So someone online asks, are earth termas written in a script or language that only the Turtan can understand?
It seems so. But, I don't know that much about Turtan termas. They may be, some could be, written in a common language, but it seems like mostly it's a language that somebody else has to interpret in some way or another. But maybe there's some written in the current language. I don't really know.